This is the Canna Mom Show, a podcast chronicling the inspiring stories of real women in the emerging cannabis industry. Your host, Joyce Gerber, mom, lawyer, political activist, has been speaking with women from coast to coast and around the world who are leaders in the revolution of cannabis and caregiving, continuing on her mission to lift up the stories of the women creating the cannabis industry by sharing their canna stories with you. So go make yourself a cup of tea or roll yourself a joint, sit back, and learn something new about this magical plant on The Canna Mom Show with Joyce Gerber.
From the Tip O'Neill Studios in North Cambridge, Massachusetts, it's The Canna Mom Show. Now here's your host, Joyce Gerber.
Welcome back. I am Joyce Gerber, and we are so grateful you are joining us again today on The Canna Mom Show, where we're continuing to crush the stigma around cannabis and caregivers, one canna story at a time. And I like our new opening, Dave, with smoke.
I have a vape stick. It's time to come out of the closet and admit it. Sometimes it's cannabis. Sometimes it's just fruity pebbles. So
I'm gonna join next week. I never smoke on air. There's like no videos of me smoking anywhere. So maybe I'll come out of the closet.
Ironic,
too.
Yes.
I know, strange, isn't it? Yeah. All right. So it feels like spring in Massachusetts, and we have some Massachusetts ladies with us today, so they can attest that's true. Strange.
Hey, yeah. Massachusetts in the house. Love it.
Yeah. And let's see. So I before I begin today's show, I just wanted to remind my local listeners that I'm going to be at the Cal Verde Dispensary in Belmont, Massachusetts, beautiful Belmont, Massachusetts, on November 1st from 5 to 7. I believe Miss Grass might be represented there, and maybe Coast Cannabis. I might be outspeaking, but there's going to be some other people there who are going to be representing. We're going to be doing crafts.
Nice.
Crafts. And, this idea, the genesis of this idea was when I was at my getting my hair done, and someone was talking about cannabis in the salon, as they do. And I, of course, had to pipe in.
Of course.
What I do. And when she asked, why do you know so much about cannabis? My hairdresser turned my chair around like I was Superwoman and said, she has the Canna Mom Show.
Very cool. I love it. Local celebrity. Yeah. You didn't realize you could be sitting next to the Canna Mom at your hair salon or in line at the supermarket. Very cool.
You never know where I'll be. Sometimes
so I have to wish you half 420 day, which was on October 20th. It's 6 months from 420. Okay. So, and the reason why this is significant, I was watching.
Math is so confusing. What?
Jimmy Kimmel had Snoop Dogg on his show, and he asked him when his birthday was. Snoop Dogg was like, oh, yeah, it's coming up 10/20. And Jimmy Kimmel told him, do you realize that's exactly 6 months from 420? And Snoop didn't even realize. So Jimmy declared it a national holiday, Snoop Father Day, I think.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, you go. Breaking news.
Oh, that's funny. All right. I might have to do a post about that. That's funny. All right. Cal Verde. Hemp guitar update. Josh Lampkin fans out there. I don't know if you're following Lampkin Guitars, you should be. He's posting the progress on the hemp guitar, which will be available this spring. We're not sure quite what we're doing with it. Maybe some sort of giveaway campaign, maybe some sort of, I don't know. Ladies today might have some ideas about that. So it's going to be it is made out of hemp, handmade by Lampkin
Guitars. The whole
Guitars.
guitar? Well, not the strings, I guess.
Just the bass part, and then he made the neck. Okay. But the neck is pretty cool if you go online and look at it. It's got little inlays, and it's very pretty. He's weirdly...
So hemp can be durable enough to be a guitar?
It's a piece of wood. It's very heavy, actually. I think it's a compressed kind of product. So when he showed it to me, he's like, this is really heavy. It's more of an art piece.
Okay.
And I've mentioned, you can still play it. We're going to do videos. We're going to do a promo. Everyone pay attention. We're going to be like having him play it. Maybe he'll make a song up about it. But he might even put like maybe at the end of it, a little thing that maybe you could smoke out of and play it.
Oh, now we're talking. The guitar that could do everything. If you have this guitar, you don't need to leave your house anymore.
Snoop Dogg, you need this.
Snoop, yeah, you need this for sure. The musical guy, yeah.
It's hysterical. All right. A lot of random things. Oh, Culture Corner. I am going to do a Culture Corner, Maestro.
The Culture Corner.
So, yeah, this week we're doing a book I like reading, although I haven't read this, I've just heard about it. Mitt Romney, the former governor of Massachusetts, another Massachusetts connection, and a current Utah senator, has a new book out called A Reckoning. It's a memoir, I guess, the way it's been here, I'll describe it. Based on dozens of interviews with Romney, his family, and his inner circle, as well as hundreds of pages of his personal journals and private emails. This in-depth portrait by award-winning journalist McKay Coppens shows a public servant authentically wrestling with the choices he has made over his career. In lively, revelatory detail, the book traces Romney's early life and rise through the ranks of a fast transforming Republican Party and exposes how a trail of seemingly small compromises by political leaders has led to a crisis of democracy.
Now, you're an unlikely person to be bringing up a Mitt Romney book, as I don't know if you're recommending it or not, but
I think it's a story of politics, I suppose, and power. And I mean, I think at the base, Romney is a human being who believes in adding value to the world. I do think that's who he is. I don't believe with his politics necessarily, but he's found himself on an island.
Well, right. And for people like you and I here in Bleeding Heart Liberal, Massachusetts, he was not a popular governor, really not at all. I interviewed him once, actually, when he was in office. And the thing I remember most about it is he's really handsome. He really is. He really has movie star looks, or at least he did at the time. But anyway,
And he still looks good. I mean, not drinking and probably doesn't do any marijuana either. He's pretty healthy.
Yeah,
but I think he's lonely. I think this loneliness is bad for you. So,
well, no, I mean, given the events of politics in the last 8 to 10 years or so, he all of a sudden is looking like someone, it wouldn't have been so bad if he were president before Biden. Maybe we could have lived with him just fine. Like you say, I like to think that he's got good intentions in mind. So anyways, you've read this or you're going to?
No. I never read these big political books, but the author has been doing the rounds, and I did listen to him on Terry Gross, and I trust them. They do long interview format. And the way it sounds is, he was the head of the Republican Party. He was the presidential nomination. He was supposed to have some sway over these people in politics, right?
Yeah.
And he didn't. And when he got to be a senator, when he finally got to that level, he realized he couldn't do anything. And that the compass of the Republican Party had really shifted, and he had no way to change it. And I think he's frustrated and sad. And maybe he's finally considering the fact, white men have a hard time to accept that maybe they have responsibility in things because they never really do. Yeah. But this is a man who, again, he's looking at himself, and he's trying to figure out what he did wrong at 75. So give him all that. And maybe he's trying to understand what his role was in this, and that's all I can hope for her. So I don't know. It's a story that's out there.
It is interesting to me because when the whole MAGA thing came about, it seemed so fringe, so bizarre, so out there that the Republican Party, the smart people in the Republican Party, they couldn't possibly fall for that propaganda, would they? And the weird thing was most of them did, which leaves someone like Romney, who's just a successful businessman and a straight-thinking guy, on the outs. So it's one of the more bizarre developments. Yeah, why couldn't he have been, Ronald Reagan, right, and served for 8 years,
Yeah, politics is a show. He just wasn't much of a showman. I don't know. It's two different skill sets, literally. You either govern, you know how to make policy, or you know how to get a lot of attention. And now we just have a lot of people who know how to get attention.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what we want too. So we're not really, down on attention. So let's back to books. So anyone out there who's following my Canna Mom romance novel, she's taking a break. I've been putting posts out every week on my website, and I've been putting it into my newsletter. So I'm now on chapter 6. If you haven't read it and you're curious, you can go catch up. Canna romance is it's a little bit lighthearted. It's got cannabis as a normalized thing. It's got a priest and a rock star. It's fun. You'll like it.
And go to the cannamomshow.com.
The cannamomshow.com, and it's under my blogs.
Very good.
And I did read chapter 1 on air last season. So if you wanted to hear me talk about it, you can go do that too.
Very cool.
All right. I guess that's enough about me. I didn't even talk about Israel today. Look at that.
Distractions are good.
Cannabis, Romney, who knows? Yeah. Yeah. Like American politics seem totally fine now. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. I'm fine. I'm cool with that. It's whatever. It's good. Yeah. See, Romney. Why are we so upset about Romney? What was wrong with us, Dave?
Yeah, he would seem like a breath of fresh air these days. I mean, compared to some of the folks that we've seen and what's going on with the Speaker of the House and that whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, crazy. Anyways, and he was from Belmont, back to Belmont. So yeah,
Right.
back November 1st. I don't think he would have saw cannabis coming to his community.
No, he probably didn't want it at all. He also didn't want gay marriage in this state, and that hasn't held up very well. But
Sometimes you're wrong. Sometimes you're
That's
wrong.
right.
That's the way it is.
That's
Okay. All right. Let's introduce today's guest. Today we have the co-founders of the Weedaker Group. The Weedaker Group supports clients in every stage of cannabis licensing, permitting, strategizing, logistics, operations. Today's guests are childhood friends with their own personal canna stories and have been advocating in the canna space for over 10 years. They are here today to share their own canna journeys, their unique perspective on Massachusetts cannabis, and fill us in on their amazing canna event, That Party, and why they are still so committed to serving the cannabis community. Please welcome to the Canna Mom Show, Jordan, Mackenzie, and Sarah Kouhaila. Welcome, ladies.
Hi, Joyce. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for joining me. All right, so let's just start introducing. Jordan, just go first. Just give us your name and how many years have been working in cannabis? How about we start with that?
My name is Jordan Mackenzie Whittaker. My pronouns are she, her, hers. For those of you who can't see us, well, you can hear us, and I am a co-founder of the Weedaker Group.
Oh, did I say maker? Whittaker. Sorry.
The Weedaker Group. Yeah, it's all good. The Weedaker Group is a business development group, and we co-founded with my partner Michael about 10 years ago. Started as an advocacy group, doing some consulting as folks were getting launched into licensing in the state, specifically in Massachusetts. So started out in the medical cannabis industry, doing patient advocacy as folks were focusing on Question 4 in 2016 and in legalizing recreational adult use. We jumped in a more official capacity, supporting licensees.
And what year is that? When did you start that?
And that was in 2017.
Oh, so dog years. You've been here for quite a while. All right. And Sarah,
Yes.
is it similar or is it?
Yeah, so I work with the Weedaker Group, Director of International Affairs and Chief Creative Officer. So we're intercontinental over at the Weedaker Group. So really help them on bridging diverse communities, fostering experiences and having fun.
Okay, so I just commented on Massachusetts roots. Both of your childhood friends. So can you just, I don't know how you want to start this. There's like an origin canna story here with these ladies. So whoever wants to start the story and kind of, you can even mention the towns because people in Massachusetts is local.
Yeah, totally. Right. So I grew up in Quincy. So I was a Randolph gal.
I was.
And we went to Archbishop Williams High School in Braintree, Massachusetts.
So like South Shore ladies. That's
in
like,
the crossroads of 93. That's right.
That's it.
And though art brought us together, we both were young theater girls with a passion for drama and a passion for cannabis.
Yes.
So
like bells, jamming to music at age 15 and doing the same thing,
And
Right.
just I guess, so what year was this? Just so my listeners have a sense of what year we're talking about.
What year is this? 2005.
Yes.
Okay.
When Sarah and I met.
So before legalization in Massachusetts, kind of moderately conservative area of the state, and how did you just like know you like cannabis together? Was this something you talked about? Or was it just like your world? Yeah.
We were two young, wild city gals at heart, but also had our hippie roots in a Catholic high school in Braintree. And when we weren't learning in the hallways, we were taken to the parking lots and passing joints and ideas and creative dreams together.
There you go. And what did your family think? Or what did you think cannabis? Did you have any sense that it was good for you, bad for you? What was your understanding of it when you were that young?
When I was that young.
Yeah,
Sarah,
I know.
Right? I know. Yeah. I mean, our
parents. I knew it was illegal.
Yeah.
Sarah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, my mom grew up doing the same thing, but it was always frowned upon, at the same time. But it was like, I heard stories when you were a kid. I know you smoked it too.
Oh, that's okay. So you're like kind of, so again, I'm 58. My kids grew up with the message that it was dangerous and killed brain cells because that's what I believed. And then I realized I was wrong. So that was great for them. But most people I know, we drank around our kids, but we never smoked or consumed cannabis. So did you have families did you see it in public, or was it something that you still did, or was a kid thing, you did it with your friends?
Yeah, for me, it was with my friends
Yeah. Okay.
always.
All right. The
Okay.
first time I ever smoked a joint, I was offered it by an older cousin.
Okay. Of
Right?
course.
So,
Yeah.
so for me, that was my introduction to smoking, was being welcomed into an experience that I knew all my cousins that were taking walks around the holidays. I knew what they were doing.
Yeah. That's what they
So,
were
like,
doing, people. That's
yeah. So when I finally got, the invite, it was kind of like a badge of honor, if you will. I mean,
that is
kind
so
of
true.
controversial to be like, as at 13, someone handed me, like, someone said that I could come along, which is all right, questionable on every other front, but hit me up and I'll explain. Like,
But
but
I mean, when you were 13, you were probably 13 were anxious, and we're like, and it's a whole phase in life, and all of a sudden you have a hit of cannabis and you're like, well, I feel kind of okay. Right.
yeah. And
The first time, just to cut you off, the first time
Yeah.
I smoked weed, I was probably 14. We were in a path, and I kid you not, a bird shit on my head. And I was so calm, and I was like, they say this is good luck. So I'm going to say this is the start of a very beautiful friendship between weed and I, and it has been ever since. But
that's actually a good segue. That is hysterical. Okay. So now you're a grown woman who have succeeded in many ways that we think a grown women succeed, and you've chosen to use your smarts to add value to the cannabis industry. So let's just talk about all right, just what have you been doing since 2014? What's been going on?
What's been happening?
What's been happening?
Right?
Yeah.
Ironically enough, as the industry was evolving, like, I found my way in it as a consumer, right? And as someone who wanted to, like, learn and all of that. So I was showing up to the events where there were leaders that were creating space for people to learn about the plant and about the benefits and about,
like, what, because I really didn't get into like 2016. So what was happening in 2014 in Massachusetts? Like, where would you go? What were you doing? Yeah.
Right. Who were we talking to? There was
who were you talking to? Yeah.
Who are we talking to? I can do some. So in 2014, there was a school in Quincy called New England Grassroots Institute. And some OGs on here might really know the way. I could name drop, and you might be surprised to hear who was hanging out in Quincy Center in 2016, 2014, 2015, 2016. But it was founded by a group of folks who had been longtime cultivators, longtime caregivers, and talks were happening in the state to, we were in a medicinal state at that point. So caregivers and patients alike were surrounded by the people who also were benefiting from the plant in one way or another, right? We were seeing people who had fatal diagnoses, right? Like some pretty awful diseases, and cannabis was, creating a path to either a more comfortable way of life or a treatment that was helping them still exist in the society that they were living in at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So get to 2016, not to bypass that all over, but in 2016, there were leaders in the state that were advocating for not only adult use in Massachusetts, but authoring a law that focused on an equitable industry. So the social equity program that was built out of that law, the economic empowerment licensees that were given priority access and resources to, in an attempt to right the wrongs of, the failed war on drugs for so many years. So as far as Massachusetts was concerned, they came out the gate and there were leaders like former Commissioner Shalene Title and Chanel Lindsay, and nonprofits like Equitable Opportunities Now, who were authoring the law. And those were the folks that we had been learning from for so many years. So we were showing up, and then all of a sudden we were meeting people who were saying, yeah, I'm going to be applying for a license and I'm going to be doing this. And at that time, it was really cool to make the relationships with folks. And then soon it became apparent that this was an industry that was requiring everyone to, to either transfer their skills, or we need everybody who's good at something to show up. And
That's awesome. I hear that a lot. I mean, I love that. That is such a great way to put it, that it's very specialized. You saw that from the beginning, and you were here at the beginning. You kind of came in right as people were trying to figure out what this paperwork is, or what are the regulations, and how the towns are going to deal with it, and how are you going to get your money. And there's no banks, and there's a lot of like pushback on top of just setting up a business, and it's very expensive. And
the amounts of challenges that are faced within the system, it's no wonder. It's a big challenge to start a business and then to run a successful business in the industry.
But you're still here. You're still doing something because you're still doing it.
Here.
So
we're we're still here. We're not going anywhere, just to be clear.
So Sarah, I don't know, maybe just, I talk about how hard and difficult and crazy it is all the time, but maybe can you just give an example of maybe someone you've worked with, or some of the things you've encountered at maybe the local level, or what the paperwork, I don't know what's something that's a small story that's kind of universal, whatever, you know what I mean? Because this is a hard industry to explain to people.
Yeah, it is. It is. I've been a patient for many years now. So now really just encouraging folks that there are, other ways of treatment. I have a lot of underlying health issues. So to be able to advocate and help people find healing in this plant, I think that's just something that I'm always constantly, trying to relay to folks. So anytime I can, plant medicine all the way. So.
But when you're working with can you get like even like the logistics of like, I don't know, because you're doing the business part of it, right? You're working with people because I talk a lot about this is compliance. Everything about this industry is compliance. Working in the dispensary to like how you set it up, you have to know what the compliance is, because if you do mess it up, then you're not going to get what you want. So, are you finding specific things with some of the businesses you're working with that are coming up over and over again that you continue to advocate to fix? Like even the host agreements. I don't know if you're involved at any point with that kind of discussion at the CCC level.
Yeah, I think Jordan would be able to talk a little bit more on the piece of it, in that side.
Yeah, right on. But Sarah, and then I'm going to pitch it right back to you to talk a little bit about as far as the challenges that licensees face is ongoing, right? It's some of the things we already talked about. It's creating the financial backing and making sure that we have not only safe banking, but access to grants and loans and proper tax laws, right? Just like any other industry. And then there's a lot of, it's still in its infancy. So there's municipalities, there's leaders, there's business owners, there's folks who are still navigating in unknown waters, right? Like there's an idea of how we should be running the industry and how everyone should be operating. And then there's the reality of it, that just like any other industry, there's challenges with turnover as it relates to HR. There's challenges with working with your municipalities, whether that's a licensee trying to get through, right? Like challenges with unfair and just plain out illegal. Literally, quite literally, some licensees doing everything they can that's in compliance in order to open their doors, and then all of a sudden there's another challenge that pops up that was because someone perceived the law to be this way, or the regulations were upheld this way, or there's someone down the street who didn't get the newsletter or attend the 4 different meetings and now wants to say, wait a minute, you're not welcome here. And that's all related to like people who aren't educated. So that's a big piece of it. But I could go on and on.
Yeah, no, I get, because it's like this, I think the dispensary specifically, I mean, there's lots of other people in this industry, but they have to be remarkably good neighbors. They have to do so much just to exist in the space.
Yes.
They are bringing customers in and bringing people in and bringing money in, but it is so expensive. And they are required to do things that no other business would. I do talk about those host agreements like extortion. I've been talking to them about like extortion since the very beginning. And when I went to a legal counsel, and they were saying, the lawyers were saying they would literally never have another client sign this kind of deal, but they knew that there's no way to get in, and they had to prove themselves. So now I think dispensaries specifically are proving themselves that they're pretty good neighbors.
Mhm.
And I know there's been pushback legally. I don't know what's happening in terms of like other communities, if things are kind of easing up, but it's like this idea, everyone's afraid cannabis would come in, it would be so scary and do horrible, terrible things. And we have not. And I think those businesses have been like over the top good neighbors and need a break.
Giving
Yeah, and
back to the community in many ways and, doing a lot of wonderful things. So, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, just the opposite of all that fear in advance. I want to give a special shout to STEM in Haverhill.
Right.
If you haven't read up on the great work that STEM is doing in the community, for the industry, for the veterans community, they're dedicated to walking the walk and talking the talk, and they've had a very challenging journey that they're outspoken and honest and transparent about. So big ups to,
They should. But
yeah, seriously.
And I've given her shout outs before. I just think,
all right.
again, if no,
Oh, my first official shout out. Sorry. Hey, shout out.
Caroline Pinoy, maybe you're listening. I
That's
love their
right.
party. And
We love
talking
it.
about cannabis parties, let's just shift gears. Let us talk about what else you guys do. That party. I guess I'll give this to Sarah. What was the mission and what happened at that party?
Yeah, so we had this party back in May.
Oh, this party. Oh, this party.
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
This party and that party. But the party came into fruition. It was Jordan, Mike, and I at the beginning of the year. We were, talking about creating a meaningful place where folks can engage in cannabis and music and art. And what does that look like? So we collaborated like we have been doing for 20 years now. And we said, what can we do? Let's throw a party, an elusive mystery party with all of the things that we love. And that's kind of how it came to fruition. But
All right. So I think that these events are always fun. Just kind of, I don't know, just kind of talk about a little bit, maybe like it's like a little bit of mystery of it. What was it like when people walked in? Like, what was going on there? There was music, right? It was art. There was a lot of art, right? Is that the
yeah, there was it all. Yeah. So folks didn't know about the location until 24 hours in advance. And they got directions on how to go. They park, they walk through this immersive woods. It's covered in these like really tall pine trees, absolutely stunning, with mirrors and all funky things throughout the way, with the ongoing theme of you're on the right path. So that's what we like to tell folks is that, just trust that you're on the right path to the question mark pop party, and folks walked into a complete immersive, experiential wonderland, if you will. 4 different musical performances, live art installations, art vendors, performers, and some of the leading cannabis brands that we have in the state that we're super stoked about. So
that is great. And again, people who aren't from Massachusetts, it was kind of closer to the bottom part of Massachusetts. So it's not a very big community down there. No people coming from Boston, but again, all these things are made in Massachusetts. These businesses have to be based in Massachusetts, and it's an interesting industry in that level, just changing how something can be made in Massachusetts. Don't you think that's like a different kind of thing, especially manufacturing? I mean, what are you dealing with any manufacturers here right now?
Yeah, we work with manufacturers, cultivators, and delivery operators, as well as retail. But the biggest thing that we're interested in is the social consumption piece of it all. Is because
let's talk about that. Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
let's
all
talk
right. So everyone has this vision that's going to be like a bar. It's going to be loud. And you're going to sit at whatever. It's going to be smoky. But what I think should happen, especially talking about Canna moms and Canna caregivers, and I'm actually getting old and senior people too, who are consuming this plant medicine and this plant for recreation and just because it makes them feel better, is it should be like a community center, a place to consume together, and then activities like, like continuing education. You have your art class or you have your yoga class or whatever it is. So it's like not like an illicit thing at night you only do. It's a thing you can do in the middle of the day, and moms could do it, and other people can have a place to consume and do stuff. And then that's a little like me time, and then you go home. So that's what I think of when I think of consumption lounges.
I love that. Dream big.
I'm dreaming big.
Right.
There's something for everyone, for sure.
Yes.
Why not? Yeah.
More accessible for folks.
So where's your vision? Because I know it's been like spinning and spinning. Do you have edibles there? Do you do vape products? Do you smoke outside? Do you consume inside? Do you have entertainment? Like where's your head on this?
So that party is essentially a model for just that.
Oh,
right?
okay.
Essentially, what you just shared with us is normalizing the fact that there's a space for people to come together in any capacity to do anything. And that might sound vague, but why not? Right? Like you need to go and get your hair cut, but you also need to make sure that you have your preferred method of consumption. I'm eating an edible before I go to Trader Joe's.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like if I'm going to a yoga class or a spa or some, I'm not often in a spa, but listen, if I am, I'm going to be in the parking lot with Sarah with the windows up before we walk in there. Right? So social consumption as this like, ooh, big, scary, how do we regulate it? We've been consuming socially since, I would argue, since the beginning of time. Like for half our lives, half my life, some of the most meaningful conversations I've had are in a parking lot in a joint rotation with the people I love most, right? That's where all these wild ideas come from, because we say yes to the opportunity and we're saying yes to the people. So why can't before swim class you hit the bong with the lifeguard right next to you? I argue that's social consumption in the YMCA. But make it accessible for folks, because that's what we really need to do. So to your point, yeah, everybody's talking about like, ooh, the coffee shop model or this model. And I think that's a wonderful way to roll into, but like all of these great products that are being cultivated or manufactured or, marketed in the Massachusetts market, how are we coming together and experiencing them together?
That's good. I like it's just the normalization. You build it into your day. And I posted something from that the DCR, the Conservation Recreation, if you have a medical card, you can consume on public land.
Oh,
look that
love
up.
That. Shout out to DCR. Big up to DCR. That's wonderful. But that's the access, right? Like we can dream about that, but I mean, as consumers and as patients, we are paying for a product and then we're being told, now you have to go and smoke that or eat that or do that somewhere else. Where is the accessibility and inclusion there? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do we provide safe spaces with space for education? Because if more people had access to the plant, I'm telling you, the world would be a better place. I know it, and you know it, and we all know it.
I mean, maybe we simplify the message. Again, like accessibility is you guys are, maybe you can go back to Parabola Institute. I think you guys are Parabola Center.
We are a proud partner of the Parabola Center. That's right.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's to talk, because this is policy talk that we're on now. So what are they, where are they?
It is, right?
Yeah. What are they talking about when they talk about, I know they talk about federal issues too, but are they talking about the Massachusetts consumption lounges, the kind of shift in attitude that it's more about accessibility than like creating another business model that shouldn't work?
Yes. Right. And the Parabola Center is full of brilliant minds that are doing the work, so they most recently had a federal crash course policy of a federal policy crash course, excuse me. Focusing
what you talked about on the show was down in the Boston Public Library. It was on Gay Pride Day. It was like a wild day down there. So there was a lot of stuff going on. But again, this is a federal discussion, like with people who actually have ability to change, to create I don't even know how to say it anymore. It shouldn't have been a business at first. That's what I think. The medical should have come across. I talked to more nurses and doctors. If we had infiltrated the medical system like we should have and used this the way and got our doctors and nurses on board, and then brought the businesses on and decided they're going to be rich, which isn't really working either, maybe this would look different. So now, we're kind of this thing where we're kind of putting out little fires, and they're trying to figure out at the federal level how to make this all come together. So yeah, that's how I think of them.
Yeah, totally. And it really comes down to being rooted in the fact that it's people first, right?
Yeah, people first.
And creating an equitable industry that looks like at the town level, at the state level, and then at the federal level. And then we can even argue what an import and export global level looks like, right? Because it's a crop that everyone is now, like, we're turning into business and dollar signs, and but all the way down, it's just rooted in helping people, right? So that we need to do that at the local, state, and federal level.
And they're doing a lot of it.
across the
Okay.
board. And Parabola Center is going to make sure it happens the right way.
Well, they're a voice in the ears of the people making the policy. The policymakers are elected officials or mirrors. The more they hear from you, the more, I don't know, they deflect it back at you. I don't know what they're doing, but
No,
this voice has to get louder. This voice has to get louder because it can't just be the business guys and business people. And I know they want to make banking, and I have the same issues with banking as everybody else does. But this is a root issue. There's a root problem. I don't know how you upend the system, but it's all getting rolled out in a crazy way. So why can't we do something different?
Yeah, and I would just offer too, I think, while I'm like hyping up the folks, that's what it's all about is, to your listeners.
Yes.
You're here because you're interested, right? So take that interest and keep staying connected and follow up and follow the people that are leading with, not only sharing education, but empowerment of how to get involved and how to stay involved. It doesn't have to be so mystical and feel so far away because there's so many different, thought leaders and organizations that are happening in Massachusetts big time that are creating platforms for people to understand and how to connect and where to even start, because there is so much to understand for sure.
All right, let's go back to is there spooky music? I feel like I hear family stories. You guys are in your 30s?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't know who wants to maybe go with Sarah. When you decided, you said, hey, I'm going to go into cannabis as a profession. Was this an issue in your family? Were people into it? Have you had to convince anybody that cannabis isn't the devil's lettuce or anything?
Oh, for a brief part. But once you start, again, I'm a patient. Once we start talking about the healing properties, again, people at the core, the healing properties the plant has as a core, I just always attested to that. But it took a little bit of time, but now, again, using our creativity and creating really meaningful experiences and places and spaces. Did
your family attend your events?
Oh yeah. Come through. It's funny. Yeah. They're, the aunties are helping, the friends are helping, it becomes, they it takes a village to do the parties. So
it does. And this idea that you're bringing people in and they say, they see it. Sometimes people have to, they have to make up their own minds. I totally believe that. And that they have to see it. So you guys are making it really accessible. I think that's been the theme of this, this discussion, accessibility in different ways. So Jordan, what about you?
My family has always been pretty supportive of what I've been determined to do.
Okay.
That's a blanket statement. Like I've always, I learned at a young age that, life is most enjoyable when you're doing the things that you love. And I work on, I do my best to not compromise. So I feel really grateful that, the cannabis industry not only lets me work with people that are my family, but also, I am in rooms with people who are like-minded and who are forward thinking and future thinking and are literally creating experiences, product, flower, brands in order to help and benefit other people. And that's pretty impactful, like that's major for me. So, I mean, it's always been a big part of me and who I am and what I do, but also like the consumption part is, all those people that were at family parties years ago that were sneaking out back with me are now the first folks that we let know that they're invited out to other things, and even like Sarah's family and like the aunties, not all of them consume.
Can I come back? Like even like so do you think that, I always say this, I smoke on the back porch with my husband at night. We don't really drink anymore. We talk more. Like, I think it's been good. And even my kids who are in their 20s, it's like, I think it's helped our interactions. And so are you finding that just in your families that you're not, I guess when you were younger, I'm sure you were like doing the walks or running away and no one knew and you kind of came home and kept your eyes down and God forbid, but now it's open. So do you find?
Now they're all coming to us being like, hey, you gotta do, what do you got? What do you got for us? Because they know we always have the goodies, and it's like, of course.
Are you guys aunts or do you have like kids in your life that are asking you questions now?
Yeah. Right. KMJM has been smelling flower for, right? Like it's our duty to educate and like normalize, right?
Yeah.
And,
but they don't know it otherwise. It's
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what I mean. The Canna Mom kind of motto. I always think these kids, it's a whole generation of kids being raised. They're crushing the stigma because they exist, because they know what it is. Their parent is not hiding in the bathroom and pretending like she's doing something else or he's doing something else. The kids know what a doobie thing, and they're like, "Here's your medicine," or whatever.
Yeah.
They know they can say I need a break. I think it's a whole, and then it's just that's how you normalize it. It's just it's culture. It's like who you see doing what they're doing, right?
Right.
So
Totally.
that's where you are. All right. So no family drama. That's good. I guess. I mean, that's you guys are younger. No, that's good.
Wait a minute. Are you looking for family drama? Because I can give you some.
No, just I always say I talk about like how I
I'm
talk to a
teasing.
lot of I talk to so many women who like or people in the industry, they're using it to heal people because their family members can see them and love them. But sometimes their family members are skeptical and still won't use it. So,
Totally.
you can see it both ways. I've had people say family members who wanted to disown them when they found out they were in the cannabis world.
Oh, that's right. That's
And then a few years later, they would have seen somebody else who they understood or connected with in a different way, and they said the same thing and they heard it. So, you know what I mean? It's
Oh,
a
yeah,
weird
no.
it's a weird headspace people are in about this plant.
Totally. And with respect to what people have known in their own experiences, ahead of time, or in the past, again, it's like if we start to normalize and talk about it more, I do think that, your brains, you start moving around and changing about and like, and soon your partner's grandmother's calling and is like, hey, my friend had something for her arthritis. She said it's the best thing. Where do I find that? So now like, and she's like, what do I gotta do? Meet you in a parking lot? And it's like, no, let's go to a dispensary together, or let's figure out how to create your own solve. Right? Like for the people who want to bake and there's makers and creators out there that can benefit from so much of like connecting with the plant, even if they're not even consuming themselves. It's like, get into a garden, get your hands on it, learn the science behind it. Like there's so many folks that your mind, I mean, we're on our high horse about it all the time, but
Yeah.
the cannabis industry asks for everyone to be involved, even the people who don't consume, like people who have skills or passions or, brilliance that are some other that you can put in another checkbox, like bring them over. So
and like you said, it's in the infancy. How often, and that's how I got into this. It's something new. I mean, how often do you get to be part of something new?
Right?
And how can you help be a creator to create this? I say creating the plant to the caregiver, the industry, the world around this plant to be a caregiving industry. That's kind of my basis of like what I keep going forward. And if we're doing this one by one. I can see it across, I talk to women across the country who like it's one by one conversation, one event, but it's getting bigger. It's more normalized now than ever. You can see it in culture. Like, you watch TV shows now and there's always somebody smoking a joint or taking a vape, or and it's not like they're bad people who are going to jump off a roof. They're just having a break. So,
That's right.
and that's what you guys are doing. You're a little bit younger than me in Massachusetts. I did not know everybody was on the pot in Massachusetts. I thought we were Puritans. When it passed in 2016, we were like, what? And then, people started telling me as soon as I started talking about cannabis, I'm sure this happens to you all the time. They start telling me all their stories, like the older women in my temple and the neighbor next door and whoever it is. So it's just, it's transparency at this point.
Totally.
It's so funny. Massachusetts. All right. Let's see. It's a couple more minutes. Sarah, what is your favorite way to consume? I don't always ask this question. I have to ask it a lot.
I flower pre-roll all day,
Old school. You're just,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah, time and a place, if I'm like in good company, I won't pass up a dab, but and other times like, before an event or something, edibles are always great, but through and through, I'm sticking with like a yummy, fruity kind of pre-roll.
That's what I like. We'll have to smoke together. And I don't really do edibles. I don't know. I just feel like hit me differently. And now I'm learning about it like from nurses that that really probably is true. So I think I'm just, I'm a flower girl. And what about you, Jordan?
I also identify as a flower girl.
T-shirts.
I love a fruity, lemony. I could go down my favorite top 5 strains in the
state.
Yeah,
do that.
Wait, all right. This is non-endorsed, but all right, in no particular order. I gotta hit you with that. In no particular order. Harbor House Albarino. Happy Valley Super Lemon Haze. Impressed Cannabis Co. Anything on their shelves. Oh, I said it. That's top three. Well, Impressed is the last three.
Wait, is impress the brand?
Impressed.
What is that? What is that? I don't even know that.
Impressed. Smoke it all, we'll grow more.
Wow.
Impressed is a family-owned cultivation that is making major waves. They're located in the South Shore of Massachusetts. They are, I mean, the name quite literally speaks for itself. Impressive. Impressed. I'm going to send you some links. I'm going to let you know where you can pick up because yes.
I spend a lot of time in dispensaries, as people know. I brought my rabbi's wife last week. I bring everybody to a dispensary, and that's one of those brands. I haven't heard of that. That's interesting. Okay, Impressed. That's good.
Impressed.
Impressed. I'll find it.
That's right.
Let's see, and that's a good call out. I mean, I will say, the issue with like flower and dispensaries is like there's a Harbor House one I got really used to, like Purple Marmalade, I think it was called, and then I couldn't find it anymore. So I find these good strains, and then I spend like another while trying to find something that's, I don't know, it's hard. It's a lot of work smoking all that cannabis to find what you like.
Someone's got to do it.
The research and development is a tireless day at work, right?
Maybe that's my future. Okay, both of you, what are you looking for like the next couple of years? What do you think is going to be your real focus? Massachusetts, national, what are you looking, what's your vision? Who wants to go first?
I know. Where do we begin?
It's a big question, but like the overarching where you're heading with what you're doing here in Massachusetts. I'm glad you're still sticking with it. People are dropping out. We can see it around us. So we need people with old school knowledge to remember where we've been and how far we've come, but how far we have to go to.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think we're really looking forward to creating more meaningful experiences for folks. And again, bridging the worlds of cannabis with the everyday local person. It doesn't have to be somebody in the cannabis industry to come to our events and be in cannabis culture. They go hand in hand. It doesn't have to be like two separate things. So really fostering those type of experiences. And then we have some business out in Morocco that we're doing. So we're there, so we've got some fun things happening on the horizon
I do love, again, like just the normalization. I did a high tea a couple of years ago, and a lot of the people who came were not cannabis users. And my relatives who didn't listen to me heard a doctor speak and said, oh, maybe what she's talking about isn't like crazy. So those events are really nice, and not everyone wants to go to a late night party. High teas are a good event, and just like we can do this in different ways. That's a really nice vision. All right. And Jordan?
The long and short, I'm looking forward to hometown Massachusetts smoothing out to be the industry that it can be and it wants to be. So the reform that's like all out there right now that we're looking at, the fine tuning of the industry that was rolled out so many years ago now, which includes social consumption licensing, and it includes reform on HCAs as well as the 2-driver rule for delivery operators, and perhaps some other policy related to timeline and all of that.
That's a lot. That's a good focus. That's
right. And then it's like hometown, but then also to Sarah and I and our partner Mike are really looking forward to just the future of cannabis in itself and what that means for the world. And
me too.
Because we have some high hopes and dreams, and we really believe in all of that and the people that are gonna be a part of that. So
I believe that too. Yeah, we're gonna. I don't know. I think we can go from carbon to cannabis. We don't even talk about hemp.
No, y'all were talking about hemp earlier.
Oh, I know.
Right?
It's bigger. Hemp. I say this every single week. It's bigger than cannabis. It's this plant that exists that can do so many things. I was watching a show about. I know. I was watching the show about Native American housing, and they were talking about using hempcrete, and I don't know. There's just this like so many things. We get, again, this vision. We need visionary leaders. We need people who aren't trying to bring us backwards. We need people going forward, and I really think that hemp is part of the future.
Totally is.
God,
I have a hempcrete house out in the Reef Mountains of Morocco in May. Was that May or June that we were out there, Sarah?
Yeah.
Wow.
Incredible.
All out of you can see the stems of it.
Fibers and that, yeah. Beautiful.
All right, you can live in it, you can play it. You can do anything you want.
You can eat it, you can wear it. It's hemp, baby.
It takes the toxins out. We do our thing. All right, hemp. Maybe the next show will be, I don't know, my next life. It's just trying to do my little bit. All right, ladies. If anyone wants to reach you, want to connect with you, want to do any advocacy work with you, just want to work with you, what is the best way to get in touch with you?
Find us at connect@theweedakergroup.com. That's an email plug. We're on socials at the Weedaker Group, and you can find our personal based off of that. You can always find us. Please do reach out, stay connected. I want to say something more profound, but that's all I got right now.
Any last words?
Yeah.
Right? Joyce, thank you for sharing this time with us.
Well, thank you for sharing. Again, I like the local angle is so important. You know, I don't know what influence we're having, but this idea that this is a very local issue at this point. And like you said, everybody's got a voice. Everybody can add it to this conversation. This is really something that's good. It's giving people purpose and it's giving people healing. And I hope by the time I'm in a nursing home, they will be using this as a normal medicine. That's my wish. Because I know they're doing it in Israel. So if they could do it in Israel, they can do it here. And I don't know how we make sure that this doesn't become inaccessible to some people. That's really part of the social equity. And that's just something we got to keep aware of and keep fighting for, right?
Right on.
Right on. All right. So that is another show for my guest, Jordan and Sarah at the Weedaker, not the Weedmaker. I am so sorry. And my Canna bro, David Jazz, and of course, our Canna Mom Show team. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to the Canna Mom Show, where we are on a mission to enhance the impact women have on the emerging cannabis industry by sharing and preserving their stories of love, kindness, wisdom, and hope. Thank you for following and sharing the amazing stories of the women building this new industry, so together we can crush the stigma around cannabis and caregivers. I'm your host, Joyce Gerber. This is the Canna Mom Show, and we are a production of Pod 617, the Boston Podcast Network.